Among these 5 ancient weapons, which one caught your attention first? Don't overthink it. Don't try to guess the right answer as if this were some kind of exam. Just feel. The first spark that lit up inside you when you saw them already contains the truth, a truth your rational mind cannot control. That instinctive reaction wasn't random. It was your unconscious moving, whispering in a language we almost never hear. Before we go any further, pause for a moment. Have you already made your choice? If not, go back to the image and allow your gaze to rest where it naturally wants to. Because this isn't about analyzing. It's about allowing your soul to recognize itself in a symbol. What you're about to experience is not a simple social media game or a piece of entertainment. It's a symbolic mirror, an ancient way of touching forgotten corners of your psyche, places that have been quietly whispering for years, waiting for you to finally listen. Carl Jung spent more than 60 years of his life decoding the secret language of the human soul. He discovered that when we choose an image, an object, or a symbol, it isn't we who are choosing. It's the symbol that chooses us. These archetypal forces, hidden deep within the collective unconscious, express themselves through decisions that seem innocent but are actually full of meaning. They reveal inner battles, unresolved wounds, and truths we're often too afraid to face. And why does this work? Because each symbol connects to that ancient library of images and meanings we all share as human beings. Your choice wasn't coincidence. It was your soul recognizing its own reflection. Today, you'll uncover something you might have never been able to put into words. The hidden conflict your psyche is confronting right now in your life. And, more importantly, what it's trying to heal. But here's where things get fascinating. At the end of this video, I'll reveal to you a specific Jungian technique that allows you to dialogue directly with the archetype you just awakened. It's not abstract theory. It's a practice that has changed thousands of lives within weeks. A tool so powerful it can break decades-old patterns if you use it with discipline. That technique will only be shared with those who stay until the end, because not everyone is ready to hear it. So stay with me, because what you hear today may completely transform the way you see yourself. And if something within you is already vibrating with these words, take a second right now and give this video a like. It's not just support, it's energy. Energy that we'll need for what's coming next. Take a deep breath. Let your eyes soften. Let your body relax. You're not just watching a video. You're stepping into a conversation with your soul. A journey into the symbolic dimension that Jung called the realm of meaning. Here, every weapon is a messenger. Every choice is a revelation. So, tell me, which one called to you first? The sword, the spear, the bow, the shield, or the axe? Because whichever you chose, it didn't just reveal a preference. It revealed a story. Your story. And now, that story begins. If your choice was the sword, pause for a moment and look at it carefully. It isn't just an object. It's a paradox. Thin, sharp, elegant, yet merciless. Its edge cuts both ways, outward toward the world and inward toward your own heart. This weapon speaks of precision, of standards, of the need for clarity and justice. But in your life, it might not be fighting external battles. It might be turned against the person you see in the mirror. Tell me, have you ever noticed how harshly you speak to yourself? How you demand perfection? How you dissect your every action? How you rarely allow yourself to rest? If the sword called to you, it's possible that your greatest war is not with others. It's with your own inner critic. Jung would call this archetype the inner inquisitor. It is the voice born in early childhood, in homes where love felt conditional, where affection depended on performance, on results, on doing everything right. Maybe you grew up with high expectations, in strict schools, or under the gaze of parents who valued achievement more than joy. So, your psyche learned a secret form of survival. If I judge myself harder than anyone else, no one will ever hurt me again. If I never fail, maybe I'll finally be worthy of love. And over the years, that voice, that sharp blade, became part of you. It gave you focus, ambition, attention to detail. It made you strong, competent, disciplined. You became someone who sees what others miss, who can cut through confusion with one clean strike. But every blade has two sides. The same weapon that makes you powerful may also wound you. Perfection becomes a prison. Clarity becomes punishment. And every victory feels fleeting because the judge inside is never satisfied. Jung once said, "Neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering." That means that sometimes your constant self-criticism, your obsession with control, is just a mask, a shield against a deeper pain you haven't allowed yourself to feel. A grief, a fear, a loneliness that no amount of perfection can fix. The message of your soul is simple. Your sword will only become sacred when you transform judgment into compassionate discernment. It's not about ignoring mistakes. It's about learning to see them with kindness, as a teacher, not a sentence. So here's your exercise. For the next 3 days, simply observe that inner judge. Don't silence it. Don't fight it. Just listen. Notice the tone of its voice, the words it uses, the emotion behind them. And when you hear it, whisper quietly, "I see you, but I am not you." That awareness, that distance, is the first step toward freedom. Imagine for a moment what your life would be like if your sword stopped punishing you and started guiding you. If that same sharpness became your ally in truth, your instrument of healing rather than harm. Because a sacred sword does not destroy, it cuts through illusion. It opens paths. It brings light where confusion once lived. That is what your soul is asking of you now. To turn your inner judge into your inner guide. To let your sword become a compass instead of a blade. Now tell me, do you recognize this sword in your life? Do you feel that pressure, that perfectionism that never rests? Share it in the comments below. Your voice might resonate with someone who's fighting the same invisible battle. And stay with me, because in the next part, we'll meet another ancient symbol. The one that belongs to those who are always moving forward, chasing a future that never quite arrives. If your instinct chose the spear, look closely at its shape. Long, straight, always pointing forward, as if its only purpose were to pierce the horizon and reach what lies ahead. It does not linger. It does not rest. It was born to advance. Choosing the spear reveals something profound about you. Inside you lives a traveler of time, a restless soul always chasing the next milestone, the next breakthrough, the next someday. You live with one foot in the future. You repeat phrases like, "When I finish this," "When I finally get there," "When I accomplish that." And yet, when you arrive, satisfaction slips through your fingers like sand. The truth is, those who carry the spear often have a story written in pain. Many grew up in environments where the present was too heavy to bear, a childhood filled with instability, conflict, or fear. So the mind learned a sacred trick: to escape forward, to survive by running toward a future that promised safety. Maybe you dreamed of a better version of yourself. Maybe you told yourself that once you achieved enough, no one could hurt you again. And so, you began to sprint through life, always reaching, always preparing, always improving, but rarely arriving. And yes, this archetype gives great gifts. The spear grants focus, endurance, and an unshakable drive. You are the kind of person who achieves what others only imagine. You cross oceans, build dreams, and carry entire teams with your determination. But every gift carries its shadow. The spear never lets you rest, because the moment you slow down, the silence returns, and with it, the pain you once ran from. You've built your life on momentum, but deep inside, something is whispering, "Stop running, you're already there." Jung taught that all progress without integration is just another form of escape. In other words, evolution without presence is exile. You can move forward 1,000 miles, but if your soul isn't with you, you haven't gone anywhere. The message of your soul is clear. Your mission now is not to conquer more future. It's to reclaim the lost territory of the present. The spear can still point forward, yes, but what it seeks isn't another destination. It seeks rootedness. It seeks your breath, your heartbeat, your now. Try this exercise. Simple, but transformative. 3 times a day. Stop for 30 seconds. Place both feet firmly on the ground. Feel your body's weight. Inhale deeply and ask yourself, what is alive in me right now? Don't analyze. Don't fix. Just observe. A thought, a feeling, a tension, a warmth, whatever arises. Let it exist. That tiny act begins to pull your spirit back into your body, back into this moment. Because this breath, this instant, is the true sacred land. The present is not a bridge to the future. It is the destination. Imagine what your life would be if you stopped chasing time and began to live it. If you could wake up tomorrow and feel deeply that what you have right now is enough. Not because you gave up, but because you finally came home. That is the secret your soul wants you to remember. You are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where your story needs you to be. Now I want to ask you, do you recognize yourself in this traveler of time? Do you feel that subtle pull toward the future? The tension that never lets you rest? Share it below. Your reflection may help another wanderer find their stillness. And don't go anywhere, because the next weapon belongs to those whose hearts can turn pain into light. A gift and a burden. If your soul was drawn to the bow, look at it again. Truly look. It's never still. Even when it rests, tension hums quietly along its curve, a silent readiness. The bow is both delicate and fierce, flexible yet unbreakable. It was crafted to transform pressure into direction, stillness into motion, emotion into meaning. Choosing the bow reveals that within you lives an emotional alchemist, someone who has learned, often too early, to turn raw feeling into strength, beauty, or wisdom. You are the one who feels deeply, maybe too deeply, for this world. You sense what others feel before they even speak. You translate sadness into understanding, anger into clarity, loneliness into art. But behind this extraordinary gift, there's a story. Most emotional alchemists were forged in chaos, born into homes where emotions were loud, unpredictable, or painful. Maybe you had to grow up fast. Maybe you learned to soothe adults instead of being soothed. Maybe you carried emotions that were never yours to carry. So your soul created this sacred mechanism. If I can turn pain into meaning, it won't destroy me. And it worked. You became the healer, the listener, the wise one others lean on. People come to you because you radiate calm, because your presence feels like a sanctuary. But very few ever see the exhaustion beneath that grace. Because alchemy has a cost. When you constantly transform pain, you rarely let yourself simply feel it. You turn every storm into poetry, every wound into insight. And in doing so, you may have forgotten that you too are allowed to break. To cry without reason, to rage without purpose, to sit in silence and not fix what hurts. Jung warned of this danger. The wounded healer who never heals himself eventually poisons his own medicine, not because he wants to harm, but because his unhealed pain seeps through everything he touches. So the message of your soul is not about giving up your bow. It's about loosening the string. You are not here only to heal others. You are also here to allow your own feelings to exist, unfiltered, untransformed, unedited. Not every emotion needs to be sculpted into meaning. Sometimes the sacred act is simply to feel. So here's your practice. This week, once, just once, let yourself feel something uncomfortable without transforming it. If sadness comes, sit with it. If anger rises, let it. If tears appear, don't search for poetry in them. Don't analyze, don't transcend, just breathe and feel. Because when emotion is allowed to exist freely, it dissolves, not through force, but through recognition. Imagine what your life could be if you balanced your gift of transformation with your right to vulnerability. If you could lower your bow without fear that everything will fall apart, it won't. In fact, it will make your strength more real, rooted not in control, but in authenticity. Because true alchemy isn't about changing emotion into something else. It's about allowing emotion to reveal what's already divine. Now tell me, do you recognize this in yourself? Have you spent years turning pain into meaning while forgetting to rest inside your own heart? Write it in the comments. Your truth might remind another emotional alchemist that it's safe to stop holding everything together. Stay with me, because the next weapon belongs to those who learn to survive behind reflections, to those who protected themselves not with steel, but with perfection. If your hand was drawn to the shield, look closely at its surface. At first glance, it gleams, polished, perfect, reflecting the light and the faces of those around you. But if you look longer, deeper, you'll begin to notice the truth hidden beneath that shimmer. Fine cracks, almost invisible, spiderwebbing across the metal. Those fractures tell a story. Your story. The shield represents the fractured mirror, the archetype of the one who learned to survive by pleasing, by adapting, by becoming what others needed. You mastered the art of reflection. You became what was expected, the reliable one, the charming one, the one who never causes trouble. You learned to smile on command, to say the right thing, to keep the peace. And in doing so, you built armor so perfect that somewhere along the way, you began to disappear behind it. Maybe it started in childhood. Perhaps in your family, love had conditions. You were accepted when you behaved, when you performed, when you fit the mold. Or maybe being different, being authentic, meant being judged or rejected. So you learned to hide, to read people's moods before they spoke, to mold yourself to whatever would keep you safe. And it worked, for a while. That shield protected you. It allowed you to navigate social storms, to avoid confrontation, to be liked, even admired. But now, that same armor feels heavy. Because each false reflection, each role you played, left behind a fragment of your true self. You wore so many faces for so long that sometimes, when you're alone, you can't quite remember which one is yours. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But for the one behind the shield, that privilege feels terrifying. What if your real face isn't accepted? What if, when you stop reflecting what others want, you lose them? Yet here's the paradox. The cracks that you fear are not a sign of failure. They're proof that something inside you is alive and pushing to emerge. Your authentic self is knocking from within, asking to be seen, to be heard, to breathe. And though that may feel dangerous, it's not destruction, it's liberation. The truth is, people don't connect with your perfection. They connect with your imperfections, with the raw, unfiltered humanity beneath the mask. They don't fall in love with your performance. They fall in love with your truth. So here's your soul's message. Your task now is not to polish the shield again, but to let the light leak through its cracks. Your healing begins the moment you dare to show something real, even if it's small. Try this. This week, share one authentic truth about yourself with someone you trust, something you usually hide. It could be a fear, a mistake, a secret tenderness. Observe what happens. You might discover that instead of judgment, you receive understanding. Instead of rejection, connection. That is the paradox of the fractured mirror. What once was your weakness becomes your bridge to others. Imagine what your life could be if you stopped protecting yourself with perfection and started connecting through truth. How much lighter it would feel. How much freer. Because you were never meant to reflect others. You were meant to shine from within. Your soul doesn't want you to be polished. It wants you to be whole. So I'll ask you, do you recognize this mirror in your own life? Do you sometimes feel trapped inside the version of yourself others expect to see? Write your reflection in the comments. Your courage might inspire someone else to lower their shield too. And stay with me, because what comes next is the most powerful of all. The weapon of those who were born in chaos, who carry ancestral storms in their blood, and who are destined to break them. If the weapon that called to you was the axe, understand this, it never chooses lightly. The axe belongs to those who have walked through storms. It is forged not in comfort, but in fire, noise, and survival. It is heavy because it carries history, not just yours, but the echoes of generations before you. Hold it for a moment in your imagination. Feel its weight, that dense, grounded power. Notice how it doesn't pretend to be delicate. It is raw, direct, and unapologetically honest. It cuts through lies, illusions, and cycles that have lasted too long. Those who are chosen by the axe often come from ancestral turbulence. Families where love was mixed with chaos. Homes marked by scarcity, conflict, or silence. Perhaps you saw too much, too early. Perhaps your childhood was not a playground, but a battlefield. And in order to survive, you hardened. You learned to rely only on yourself, to cut ties before being cut, to move on quickly, decisively, mercilessly. And yes, that strength saved you. When others fell apart, you kept standing. When life demanded impossible choices, you made them. You became the one who endures, who rebuilds from ashes. The axe gave you courage, focus, self-reliance. But it also left scars. Because a weapon that powerful does not distinguish between the forest you must clear and the roots you still need. Sometimes, without realizing it, You cut away parts of yourself that were still alive. Softness, tenderness, trust. You called it survival. But your soul knows. Survival is not the same as living. Jung spoke of ancestral trauma. The emotional wounds passed down silently through families, replayed until someone chooses to stop the cycle. If you chose the axe, that someone is you. You were born with the strength to end what began long before your time. To take the pain that shaped your lineage and forge it into wisdom. Your mission is no longer defense. It is creation. You are not meant to swing the axe endlessly, destroying everything that threatens you. You are meant to learn when to stop, to plant where you once struck, to build where you once broke. So here's your soul's invitation. This week, look for one pattern that runs through your family story: anger, scarcity, silence, control. Notice how it appears in your own life, and then do one thing differently. Even a small act of consciousness, one honest conversation, one refusal to repeat an old behavior, is like bringing the blade down on the root of the past. It will shake the ground. It might even hurt. But in that crack, something new will grow. Something that belongs to you. Because you were never cursed. You were chosen. Chosen to be the bridge between what was and what can be. You are the end of an old story and the beginning of a better one. Imagine for a moment a future generation, your children, your students, your community, walking freely because you chose to stop swinging and start building. That is the true legacy of the axe, not destruction. Transformation. So I ask you, do you feel that ancestral weight in your blood? Do you sense that your battles began long before you were born? Share it below, because when one heir of chaos speaks, others recognize the echo. And now, as promised, let's move to what ties all of this together. A sacred Jungian practice, a way to speak directly with the archetype you just awakened and begin the process of integration. Take a deep breath. Center yourself. Because what comes next is not just knowledge, it's initiation. You've chosen your weapon, or rather, it has chosen you. And now that the symbol has spoken, the question is, what will you do with what it revealed? Carl Jung taught that when a symbol stirs something inside us, it's not a coincidence. It's a summons, an invitation from the unconscious to begin a dialogue with the hidden parts of ourselves. The purpose isn't to judge or fix them, but to integrate them, to make the unconscious conscious so that it no longer controls us from the shadows. The technique you're about to learn is simple, but if you practice it sincerely, it can change your life. It's called active imagination, Jung's bridge between the rational mind and the symbolic world of the soul. Step 1. Enter the inner space. Find a quiet place. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. Let your breath slow down until the noise of the world fades. Then visualize the weapon you chose. The sword, the spear, the bow, the shield, or the axe. See it clearly before you. Don't analyze it. Just observe. Its weight, its color, its presence. It's more than an object. It's a living symbol, a messenger from your own psyche. Step 2. Let the archetype speak. Ask the weapon a question, softly, in your mind. What message do you have for me? Then wait. Maybe words come. Maybe an image. Maybe just a feeling. Don't force it. The unconscious speaks in whispers, not in sentences. Whatever arises, no matter how strange, is part of the conversation. If your sword speaks of perfection, listen without defense. If your spear shows exhaustion, don't rush to fix it. If your bow cries quietly, let it. If your shield trembles, hold it with tenderness. If your axe sighs, honor its fatigue. Because these aren't random images. They are fragments of you, asking to be seen, accepted, and brought home. Step 3. Respond with awareness. Now, speak back. Yes, talk to it. Say what you never said out loud. Apologize if you must. Thank it for protecting you. Forgive it for the weight it carried. Tell it what you're ready to learn from it now. And when the dialogue feels complete, imagine yourself holding the weapon once more. But this time, it feels different, lighter, warmer. Because now it's no longer a tool of survival. It's a symbol of integration. It's become part of your consciousness, not your cage. Step 4. Seal the insight. When you open your eyes, write down what you experienced, not as a diary of logic, but as a record of soul. Describe what the weapon looked like, what it said, how you felt. Over time, you'll start noticing patterns, dreams, coincidences, new emotions surfacing. That's the psyche's way of telling you, I'm listening back. Repeat this practice once a week. Each time, the dialogue will go deeper, and slowly, the weapon will stop being something you choose. It will become something you are, not as a burden, but as a source of wisdom and balance. Jung once wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And that is what this journey has been about. Remembering, reclaiming, and reconciling the hidden fragments that make you whole. You are not the sword, nor the spear, nor the bow, nor the shield, nor the axe. You are the consciousness that holds them all. The one who can cut, build, protect, feel, and heal all at once. So before you go, take one last breath and whisper inwardly, I see you, I hear you, I am ready to be whole. That's how transformation begins. If this journey resonated with you, if something inside you awakened, share it in the comments. Someone out there might need to hear your story to begin their own. And if you'd like to walk further on this path, remember, the unconscious always speaks, but only to those who are still enough to listen.